Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum to all my Muslim brothers and sisters. Ramadan Mubarak to you and me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fasting as an act of ibadah. So, if you are seeing my face for the first time, you're welcome. My name is Sophia Abdusalam, and on this channel, I share sewing tutorials to help you create beautiful outfits with confidence. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how I drafted the pattern for these pants you're seeing on me right now. I used the same pattern to achieve this too. So if this is something you would like to see, then you should stay with me till the end. Once again, if this is your first time on my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and please subscribe. And to all my returning subscribers, thank you so much for your support as always. God bless you guys. So without wasting much more time, let's get started with the pattern drafting. Before anything else, let's talk about the measurements you are going to need for this tutorial. First on the list is your waist round measurement, followed by your hip round measurement, then your crouch depth measurement. If you don't know how to measure your crouch depth, all you have to do is tie a rope around your waist, then sit down on a hard surface, preferably a flat table. Then you are going to measure from the rope on your waist all the way to the table. Whatever you have is going to be your crouch depth measurement. Then you're going to need your trouser length measurement, and that will be all. Now, as for the materials you are going to need, first on the list is your fashion fabric. In my own case, I'm using this brown crepe material and I bought 2.5 yards of it. So if your hip is something 50 and above, I would advise you to buy 3 yards just to be on the safer side. But if your hip is like 49 and below, mine is 44, then you can do 2.5 yards. You're going to need pins, tailor's chalk, and everything you see on this table, including a matching thread. Another thing that is not here is your zipper and a little bit of stay. I'm sorry I didn't include zipper and the stay in this clip, but please note that you will need it. So for now, let's move to the pattern drafting. Now, you can do this pattern directly on your fabric, but I'm going to be doing mine on the paper because I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it when I do it directly on the fabric. But if you want to do yours on fabric directly, I will advise you to watch this tutorial all the way till the end so you will see everything before you start drafting it out on your fabric. So to calculate how much of fabric you are going to need for your front pattern, the first thing you are going to need is you are going to think how much sewing allowance do you want to do for this trouser. So for me on the side, I want to do 1 inch, while the inseam side I want to do ½ inch. So that makes it a total of 1.5 inch sewing allowance per piece. I hope you understand. Then I'm going to divide my hip measurement into 4. As for me, the hip I'm working with is 44. 44 divided by 4 gave me 11 inches. So I'm going to write that down. Then I'm going to be adding 0.5 inch ease allowance to my hip divided by 4 measurement. Then I'm going to write that ease allowance down. Then I am now going to divide my hip measurement by 16. This is for our crouch extension. So after dividing 44 by 16, it gave me 2.75. So all these numbers that I have written down, I am going to press my calculator and add everything together to see what I have. So after pressing my calculator, I have 15.75 or 15.75. So this 15.75 is what I am going to cut out on fold, such that by the time I open up my fabric, I will have 31.5, that is 15.575 times 2, which gave me 31.5. So whatever you calculated for your own, after you impute your measurement, multiply it by 2. That is the amount of fabric you are going to cut out, such that by the time you fold it into 2, you have the initial thing your calculator gave you. I hope you understand that. Now, as for my pattern paper, what I have here is 16 inches instead of 15.75. So I decided to add that extra quarter of an inch just for me to round the top. No big deal. I hope you understand what I'm saying. As for the length of the trouser, notice that from the top of the pattern paper here, I came down by ½ of an inch. This line is going to be my margin line and all my measurements will be starting from there. My trouser length is 41 inches. Then I added extra 2 inches just for me to be able to fold the hem of the trouser. Now, my advice is that if you are the type that like your trouser to flow very well, like flow and long, whatever your trouser length measurement is, please add extra 2 inches to the length before you even add extra inches for folding allowance. Now, on the side of my pattern paper here, I came in by 1¼ inch, or but if you are doing yours directly on the fabric, you would have cut out the exact fabric you need. Please, you just do 1 inch on the side there. I hope you understand what I'm saying. But for me, I did 1¼ because I have that allowance. Now, as for the pattern drafting, the first line we are going to be imputing is my crouch depth line. Now, my original crouch depth measurement is 11½, but because this trouser is free, it's a palazzo pant, it doesn't have to be tight, so I need extra ease around my crouch. So I decided to add extra 1 inch to my crouch measurement to make it 12½, instead of 11½. You can go ahead and add up to 1½ inch to your crouch measurement, but for me, the 1 inch I added was perfect. So I'm going to be marking 12½ now instead of 11½. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out my hip measurement. The hip I'm working with is 44. 44 divided by 4 gave me 11 inches. So I'm just going to mark that now. Now, I'm going to be adding my heels allowance of 0.5 inch to that, which makes it a total of 11½. So this 11½, I'm going to mark it on my waistline as well. Note that I'm marking it from the margin line that I draw on the side. Please take note of that. So if divided by 4 plus whatever is allowance you decide to do, I mark it on the crotch line and I mark it on the waistline. Now I'm connecting it with a broken line. All right. Now I'm going to measure what I have on this broken line here, and I'm going to divide it by 3. So 12½ divided by 3 gave me 4.1 or something. So that 4.1, I'm going to measure it from my crouch depth line upward like this. Then I'm going to use my ruler to square it out. Your crouch depth measurement, the broken line, divided by 3. Wherever you have, measure it from your crouch line upward. Now, this line that I just draw is going to be my hip line, and this other line is going to be my crouch line. Now, the next thing I am going to do is, from where this broken line is touching the waistline up here, I am going to go in by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to note it like that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to determine my crouch extension, and to do that, I will need to divide my hip measurement by 16. So whatever your hip measurement is, divided by 16. In my own case, 44 divided by 16 gave me 2.75. So that 2.75, I marked it from the broken line forward like this. So that is going to be my crouch extension. Now it is time for us to draw our crouch curve. But before that, we need to know how high is our crouch going to be. So now is the time to pick up your French curve and try to locate this V shape on it. Once you locate the V, you will notice that there is a straight line that goes in between the V shape. What you are going to do is you are going to make sure that this straight line is sitting directly on the broken line on your pattern paper. And you are going to make sure that the straight part of your French curve is sitting directly on your crouch line. Please, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just watch what I'm doing. You are going to understand it. Now, this part of the V, the one that goes to your crouch extension side, you're then going to use your pencil to note where that V is. Then you're going to connect from this point into the point you just created. In case you don't understand, just watch what I'm doing. You are going to get it. But in case you do not have this French curve, this is what you are going to do to get your diagonal angle. You are going to measure whatever your crouch extension is. In my own case, it is 2.75. Then you are going to measure it upward from where the broken line is touching your crouch extension like this. Then you're going to connect the 2 points together with a faint straight line. You don't have to make it very obvious. Now, after that, you're going to measure this line, this new line, then you're going to get the midpoint. Whatever the midpoint is going to be your diagonal angle. You will notice that the midpoint of this line is sitting directly on the diagonal line I used my ruler to create. So it is still the same thing. Now I can go ahead and mark out my crouch height on this diagonal line. Now for my crouch height, I'll be doing 1 inch because my hip is 44. So from hip 44 and below, 1 inch is okay. But if your hip is something like 45, 46, 47, 48, or even 49, please go ahead and do 1.125 for your crouch height. So 1.125 is one small line after 1 inch mark. But if your hip is 50 and above, please you can do as much as 1 1/4, that is 1.25 for your crouch height. So once you mark out your crouch height, you can then connect from the half-inch point on your waistline to your crouch height, then to your crouch extension point. Now, when you are doing this, you need to take your time and be patient because there is a chance that your French cuff will not be able to go through the 3 points at once. So you can go ahead, take your time and do it one after the other, just like the way I'm going to be doing now. Now, what I'm going to do is to impute my dart line. So to get my dart line, what I'm going to do is I am going to divide my hip measurement by 12. So whatever I have, I am going to add 0.5 inch to it. So my hip is 44. 44 divided by 12 gave me 3.66666667. So after adding 0.5 inch to it, it gave me 4.166667. So I decided to approximate it to 4.125, which is one small line after 4 inches. So I am going to be marking this 4.125 from the broken line inward like this. And I'll be marking it on both crouch line and on the waistline. Please note that I mark this from this broken line inward. Please take note of that. Now I am going to be connecting it with a straight line like this. Now I need to extend this line downward. So to do that, I'm going to be measuring from this side line here up to the dart line points just to see what I have. Measure is whatever you have, you're just going to extend it all the way down like that. Then you are going to connect the points together with your straight line. Note that your dart line, how you get your dart line is totally up to you. You can decide to use your bust span measurement divided by 2 to get your dart line. But if you decide to do your hip right by 12 plus 0.5 inch to get your dart line as well, is totally fine. You can use any method that you like, okay? So now it is time to impute my waist measurement. The waist I'm working with is 30. 30 divided by 4 gave me 7.5. So I added extra 1 inch to that to make it 8.5. The 1 inch I added is for my dart allowance. So if you don't want to put that, no problem. You can just mark your exact waist divided by 4 on the waistline. So now I'm going to be connecting from the 8.5 inch mark on the waist into my hip point. Now, when you are drawing your hip cuff, please make sure that it is not pointy around the hip area, okay? Make sure it is nice and smooth. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is to come down 1 inch from the waistline like this. So I will be marking that on the crouch line. So from the waistline, come down by 1 inch, okay? And I'm going to be connecting it straight into my waist point like this. The essence of this is just to eliminate any bulkiness that I can have around the tummy in the front. Now, after this, it is time for me to mark my dart legs. You know, I did 1 inch dart allowance. So that 1 inch, I shared it half inch on both sides of my dart line. Now, it is time for me to determine how long is my dart going to be. So for my dart length, I decided to do 5.5 inch, and that 5.5 inch, I marked it from the original waistline. Okay, like this. Then I'm going to be connecting my half inch points into the 5.5 inch point like this just to get my dart legs. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope what I'm saying is not confusing you. Just watch what I'm doing, you are going to get it. So after marking my dart legs like this, because of the slanted line we created to eliminate bulkiness around the front, so you will notice that your dart legs is no longer equal. So one is shorter or one is longer than the other. So just measure the one that is longer, then replace the one that is shorter. Okay, I hope you understand what I'm saying. So then redraw your waistline like this and every other thing. So now I am like 90% done with the front pattern. All I have to do now is add my sewing allowance and every other thing. So this half inch here is going to be my sewing allowance for the inseam side. Okay, then now, as for the hem of your trouser, you can decide to, like, if you have enough fabric, you can decide to extend the hem of your trouser by like maybe 2 inches on both sides so that to create something that looks like a flare. So if you do that, just connect it straight into your crouch extension point or to the sewing allowance there. But for me, I don't have that much fabric, so I decided to keep it straight. Now, I'm going ahead to add my sewing allowance to the crouch part, and I decided to add 1 inch sewing allowance on the side of the trouser. Okay, I've not done anything to the waist area. This is because I still need to mark out my band and every other thing. So for now, let's start working on the back piece. Now, to know how much of fabric you are going to need for your back piece, you first off need to remember how much of fabric you used for your front piece. In my own case, I calculated 15.75 for my front piece, which I later approximated to 16 inches. So this 16 inches, I'm going to be adding extra 4 inches to that to get my back piece. Note that this 20 inches is going to be on fold, such that by the time I open up the fabric, it is going to give me 40 inches. Now, if your hip is something like 48, 49, 50 and above, please don't add anything less than 5 inches to whatever you used for your front piece. Now, that is done. If you measure what I have on the pattern paper here, you will see 20 inches exactly. Now, as for the length of the back, whatever the length of your front pattern is, in my own case, the length of my trouser is 41. Then I added extra 2 inches for hemming allowance when I was doing the front, which makes it a total of 43 for the front. So that 43, I added extra 1.5 inch to it, which gave me 44 and a half. And that is what I'm going to be using as the length of my pattern for the back piece, so 44 and a half. So whatever your length, the length of your front pattern is, including your hemming allowance, add extra 1.5 inch to it to get the length of your pattern for the back piece. Now, my pattern is ready. So on the side here, I came in by 2 inches. Please, we are using the red line, not the pencil. So I came in by 2 inches all from the top of the pattern all the way to the hem. Now, if your hip is something like 48, 49 and 50 and above, please go in by 2.5 inch just for you to be on the safer side. Now, I'm going to be putting my front pattern. It is going to be resting directly at the hem like this. Make sure it is equal, and it is going to be resting directly on the 2 inches line that I mark on my back piece. Now, notice that the front piece, my sewing allowance and everything is included on the pattern. Please make sure you do your own like that as well. Your sewing allowance does not have anything to do, like it will not affect the outcome of your trouser. So as a matter of fact, my 1 inch sewing allowance that I did on the side of the front piece is resting directly on the 2 inches line that I draw out on the back piece. So right now, I'm just going to use my pin to secure the two pieces together so that it doesn't shift. So right now, I've been able to secure the two pattern paper together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off this excess that I have around the front area so that I'll be able to extend my crotch line, my hip line, and my waistline on the back piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and extend all the lines now, then we can continue. So right now, I'm just going to lift up my front piece like this so that I can connect the lines together in the middle like this, okay? Now, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is to transfer the broken line on my front pattern. I'll transfer it from the front pattern to the back pattern, okay? So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my pin to puncture the broken line where it is touching my crouch line and when it is touching my waistline like this. Then by the time I use my needle and I lift up my front pattern, the needle would have created like a hole on the back piece. So I'll just use my ruler to and pencil to connect the 2 points together like this with a broken line. Okay, just make sure you transfer the broken line from your front pattern onto the back pattern. Now, the next that I am going to do is to measure what I have from this broken line down to my dart line on the front pattern. Remember that to get my dart line initially, what I did was to divide my hip by 12, then add 0.5 inch. Then I measured it from the broken line inward to get my dart line. So measure what you have like this, from the broken line down to your dart line, and divide it by 4. So after dividing mine, it gave me 1 inch. So that 1 inch, I'm going to be marking it on my back pattern from the broken line inward. Please just watch what I am doing. You are going to understand it. Now I've connected the 2 points together with a straight line, not broken line this time. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is this new line. I am now going to measure it and get the middle and note it down like that. Okay, so I'm just going to note it down like this. Now, it is time for me to do my crouch extension for the back. So to do that, I'm going to measure what I have for my crouch extension for the front, which was 2.75. Remember, to get my crouch extension for the front, all I did was to divide my hip by 16, so which gave me 2.75. So that 2.75, I divided it into two equal parts. So I am now going to mark it from my crouch extension for the front forward like this, okay? I divided it into two, then I mark it forward. Now I am going to add my half-inch sewing allowance. Okay, so whatever your crouch extension for the front is, measure it, then divide it by 2, then mark it from your crouch extension for the front forward on the crouch line to get your crouch extension for the back. And don't forget to add your half-inch sewing allowance to your inseam side like this or to your crouch side like this. Now, this is my crouch extension for the back. Now, from this crouch extension point, I am going to come down by quarter of an inch, okay? I'm going to come down by quarter of an inch. Now, my crouch extension has been sorted. It is time for me to determine my crouch height. The same thing we did for the front. You are going to locate the V on your French cuff, then make sure the straight line on your V is staying directly on the straight line on your back line. Notice that for the back, we are not using the broken line. We are using the straight line at the back. So place it on top. Then for this one, for your crouch height, you are going to be doing 1.75, whether you are big or small. But if your hip is something like 48 upward, you can go ahead and do up to 2 inches for your crouch height for the back. I hope you understand. But if you're on the medium to small size, 1.75 is okay. Now, from where this straight line is touching the waistline like this, I'm going to come in by 3/4 of an inch. So this 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to go up from there by 1 inch like this. Okay, I came in by 3/4 of an inch from the straight line, where the straight line is touching the waist. I came in by 3/4 of an inch. Then this 3/4 of an inch, I extended it upward by 1 inch. Okay, so now from this 1 inch, I'm going to be connecting it to this middle, then to the crouch height, then to your crouch extension. Please, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just watch what I'm doing. You are going to understand it. So at this point, I didn't know my camera had turned off and I had done a lot of things with my marker. If I had used pencil, I would have been able to erase it and redo it so that you guys can see it. But right now, I'm just going to explain everything I did with my marker so that you guys will know. So the first thing I did was to draw my crouch cup like I told you earlier. And after that, the next thing I did was to impute my hip divided by 4 measurement on the hip line. So I did my hip divided by 4 plus 0.5-inch ease allowance like I did for the front. Then I marked that from the straight line. Please note, from the straight line, not from the broken line. And I marked it all the way to the side. Now, after doing my hip divided by 4 plus 0.5-inch, and I marked it, it falls directly on the red line that I initially draw on my back pattern. So I maintained that red line all the way to the hem of the pattern. I believe you understand what I'm saying. The next thing I did was to impute my waist divided by 4 plus 1.5-inch dart allowance on the waistline. I noted that point, which gave me a total of 9 inches, and I connected it into the 1-inch back extension that I did. I believe you can see the slanted line that is going on my waistline. Then from my waist point, I connected into my hip point with my French curve. Now, if you don't understand anything that I'm saying, you can just drop it for me in the comment section. I'm going to re-explain to you. Now, the next thing I did was to mark my dart line and my dart leg for the back. So to get my dart line for the back, all I did was I measured my center front to my dart line on the front pattern. Then I projected the same thing from the center back to the side to get my dart line. And I shared my 1.5-inch dart allowance on both sides of the dart line. As for my dart length, I think I did 6 inches or 6.5. I can't remember. And you can decide to just connect your own dart into the hip, however you want it. Notice that I've gone ahead to mark my 1-inch sewing allowance on the side of the pattern. So right now what I'm doing is I am just trying to draw my 1-inch sewing allowance for the center back. I'm doing 1-inch sewing allowance for the center back because I decided I'm going to be putting my zipper at the back. Okay, so that is why I decided to do 1-inch sewing allowance. So right now I'm just marking that, and notice that I've gone ahead to draw down my inseam line as well, okay? Like I did for the front, and keeping it straight for the back piece as well. So my pattern is ready, and I can just go ahead to cut out everything as it is. Like I told you when we were drafting the back front pattern, you can decide to extend the hem of your pattern by 2 inches just to give you something that looks like a flare. So if you extend your front hem by 2 inches on both sides, you must extend the hem of your back piece as well by 2 inches on both sides. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out my band away from this pattern because I used my measurement exactly as it is, so I need to cut out my band if I intend to put band. But in case you do not want to put band on your own, you want to make it bandless, you can go ahead and cut this out directly on your fabric, then everything will be fine. But remember to add 1/2 inch to your waistline. But for me, I want to put band on this trouser. So from my waistline, I came down by 1 inch on both on the center back and on the side. Then I connected it with a straight line. So I could have just go ahead and cut out the band with my scissors. But I just thought, what if next time I want to make a trouser without band, a bandless trouser? So I wouldn't want to start drafting pattern from scratch again. So that is why I decided to fold in the band. But when I'm cutting this on fabric, I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch to my waistline. This is because I need that 1/2 inch to join the band to the main trouser when I am sewing. So I've added all other sewing allowance to this pattern. The only place that is left is that waist area, which I just folded in the band. So when I'm cutting it out on my fabric, I'm going to be adding that 1/2 inch to the waist, so I'll be able to join the band to the main trouser. Now, on my front pattern, the first thing I did was to cut off that 1 inch I used to eliminate bulkiness around the center front. Then after that, I came down by 1 inch on the center front again, then 1 inch on the side and connected it with a straight line. This is going to be my band allowance. Then I folded it in like I did for the back. So right now, this is where this tutorial is going to end. If you have any question for me, you can drop it in the comment section and I'm going to reply to you. So next time, I'm going to show you guys how to cut everything out on fabric and how to join everything together. So until then, stay fly, stay stylish. Bye bye.